What would you do if you won the lottery on the day your wife asked for a divorce? Would you tell her? Would you try to win her back? Or would you let her go, forever wondering if she truly loved you? David Williams faced exactly this choice, and his answer almost cost him the only thing money can't buy. Before we dive into this exciting story, leave a comment below saying where you're watching from. Your presence means a lot to us. Enjoy this journey of faith and hope. The March rain fell heavy on the streets of Cleveland, Ohio, creating small rivers in the gutters and making people run for shelter. In the small apartment on the third floor of a red brick building on the east side, Monica Stevens sat at the kitchen table, staring at the papers spread before her as if they were a death sentence. Divorce papers. 24 years of marriage summarized in cold, impersonal legal forms. Monica was 43 years old. With brown hair already showing gray strands, she didn't have the time or money to die. She had worked as a nurse at Cleveland Clinic for 18 years, always taking the toughest shifts, always covering for colleagues' days off, always chasing overtime hours that barely paid the bills that kept piling up. The familiar sound of her husband's '98 Honda Civic arriving made her look out the window. The car coughed and choked like an old smoker trying to climb stairs. David had been promising to take it to the mechanic for months, but they both knew they didn't have the $800 the repair would cost. David Stevens, 45 years old, entered through the door with shoulders curved by the weight of another day at the General Motors factory. His hands, stained with grease that never came out completely, trembled slightly, a side effect of the anxiety medication he'd been taking since he almost lost his job the previous year. "Hi, honey," he said, trying to smile as he hung up his soaked jacket. "How was your shift?" Monica couldn't lift her eyes from the papers. "David, sit here. We need to talk." Her tone made David's blood freeze. He knew that tone. It was the same one she'd used when she told him the bank was threatening to foreclose on the mortgage. The same one when they had to cancel the family vacation they'd promised their daughter Jessica. "Is everything okay?" he asked, but already knew it wasn't. "No," Monica replied, finally looking at him. Her eyes were red and swollen. "Things haven't been okay for a long time." David sat down slowly, his eyes meeting the papers on the table. The word divorce in bold letters at the top of the first page was like a punch to the stomach. "Monica, what is this?" "It's what it looks like, David." Her voice was steady, but he could hear the tremor underneath. "I'm filing for divorce." For a moment, the only sound in the apartment was the rain beating against the windows and the constant dripping of the kitchen faucet they couldn't afford to fix. "I don't understand," David whispered. "Why?" Monica laughed, but there was nothing joyful about the sound. "Why, David? Look around us. Look at us." She gestured to the small, poorly furnished apartment. The 20-inch television they'd bought used 5 years ago. The sofa with a blanket covering the tears in the upholstery. The piles of bills on top of the refrigerator that never stopped growing. "When was the last time we went out to dinner? When was the last time we bought something just because we wanted it, not because we needed it? When was the last time we looked at each other and saw something other than bills and problems?" David tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. "You've been taking anxiety medication for 3 years because of work," Monica continued. "I've been working double shifts for 2 years just to keep our heads above water. And our daughter. My God, David, Jessica is 16 years old and works at McDonald's after school because she's embarrassed to ask for money to go out with friends. I know things are difficult, but..." "Difficult?" Monica stood up abruptly, the chair scraping on the floor. "David, we couldn't even pay last month's electric bill. We had to borrow from your sister." "Again?" David lowered his head. The humiliation of having to borrow money from Sarah still burned. "And you know what's worse?" Monica continued, her voice beginning to crack. "We stopped dreaming. Remember when we were young? You talked about opening your own auto repair shop. I wanted to go back to college, become an obstetric nurse. We had plans, David. We had hope. We still can." "No, we can't." Monica turned to him, tears streaming down her face. "Because all we do now is survive. We wake up, work, fight about money, sleep, and do it all over again the next day. This isn't life, David. This is just existing. David stood up and tried to approach her, but Monica stepped back. No, David, don't make this harder than it already is. Monica, I love you. I know. Her voice was almost a whisper. And I love you too. But love doesn't pay bills. Love doesn't fix our problems. And love certainly isn't enough when we can barely look at each other without seeing disappointment. David felt tears burning his eyes. So that's it? 24 years and you're just going to give up? I'm not giving up, Monica replied. I'm freeing myself and freeing you too. I don't want to be freed. I want to fix this. How, David? How are you going to fix this? Are you going to get a job that pays double? Are you going to go back in time and make different choices? Are you going to make money appear out of nowhere? David opened his mouth to respond, but had no answer. How could he fix something that had been broken for so long? Monica wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I already talked to a lawyer. It's simple. We have practically nothing to divide anyway. The apartment is rented, the car isn't worth anything, and our debts, well, we'll have to figure out how to deal with those. And Jessica? Jessica is almost graduating high school. She can choose who she wants to stay with, or she can go to college and get out of this mess for good. David slumped back into the chair, feeling completely defeated. 24 years of marriage, a beautiful daughter, and everything falling apart because of money, or the lack of it. Monica, please, give me one more chance. Let me try. You already tried, David. We both tried, but some things can't be fixed with just good intentions. Monica took the papers from the table and placed them in front of him, along with a pen. I just need you to sign, David. I won't make this complicated. I don't want to fight. I just want peace. David looked at the papers, the words blurring through tears. 24 years reduced to signatures on legal forms. Can I think about this? Just for a few days? Monica hesitated, then nodded. A few days, David, but it won't change anything. It can't change anything. David nodded, even though every fiber of his being was screaming to fight, to not give up, to find a way to save the marriage that was once the most precious thing in his life. Monica went upstairs to the bedroom, leaving David alone in the kitchen with the divorce papers and the crushing weight of failure. He sat there for an hour, maybe two, just looking at those papers. 24 years, a lifetime of memories, dreams, and love, and it all came down to this. From his jacket pocket, he took out something he'd been buying religiously every Friday for 15 years, even when they barely had money for food. A Powerball lottery ticket. $5 that Monica always said were $5 thrown away. Someday, he used to say, someday our luck will change. But someday never came, and now it was too late. David looked at the ticket in his hand, then at the divorce papers on the table. Two things that represented hope and despair, side by side. He put the ticket back in his pocket and went upstairs to the bedroom, where Monica was already sleeping or pretending to sleep. David lay down on the other side of the bed, maintaining a careful distance, and stared at the ceiling until dawn. It was Thursday, March 17th, the day his life would change forever. He just didn't know it yet. David woke up Friday feeling like he'd been hit by a truck. Monica had already left for work, 6 a.m. shift, and Jessica was having breakfast before school. "Dad, are you okay?" Jessica asked, looking at him with concern. At 16, she had her mother's smart eyes and the sensitivity of someone who'd grown up too fast. "Did you guys fight again last night?" David forced a smile. "Everything's fine, Princess. Just a little tired." Jessica didn't look convinced, but didn't insist. She grabbed her backpack and kissed her father's cheek before leaving. "I love you, Dad. I love you too, Jess." After she left, David was alone in the silent apartment. The divorce papers were still on the kitchen table like a silent accusation. He dressed mechanically and went to the factory, where he spent the entire day on autopilot. His colleagues noticed he was too quiet, but no one asked. At the GM factory, everyone had their own problems. At 5:30, David stopped at the Shell gas station on the corner of East Cleveland Avenue, as he did every Friday for 15 years. He bought the Powerball ticket, choosing the same numbers he always chose. Monica's birthday, 12/26. Jessica's birthday, 8/17. Their wedding day, 29. And two random numbers he started playing when Jessica was little, 3 and 42. The attendant, an elderly Korean man named Mr. Kim, who had known him for years, smiled when he saw him. "The usual lucky numbers, David. The usual lucky numbers, Mr. Kim. Someday you'll win, my friend. I feel it." David forced a smile. "I hope it's today, Mr. Kim. I need a miracle." Mr. Kim looked at him more carefully. "Everything okay at home?" "It will be," David lied. "It will be." David drove home through Friday's heavy traffic, the lottery ticket in his shirt pocket, the divorce papers waiting for him at home. The irony wasn't lost on him. When he got home, Monica was in the kitchen preparing dinner. They barely spoke during the meal, Jessica filling the awkward silence with stories from school. After dinner, Monica went to the bedroom to watch TV. Jessica went out to meet friends, and David was left alone in the living room, looking at the television without really seeing anything. At 11 o'clock, the Powerball drawing began. David wasn't even paying much attention. After 15 years of buying tickets and never winning even $5, it was more habit than real hope. He was leafing through an old newspaper when he heard the announcer begin to announce the numbers. "The first number drawn tonight is 12. David looked up distractedly. 12, Monica's birthday. "The second number is 26. The newspaper slipped from David's hands. 26. Monica's birth month. He pulled the ticket from his pocket with trembling hands. "The third number is 8. Jessica's birthday. David felt his heart begin to beat faster. "The fourth number is 17. Jessica's birth month. "The fifth number is 29. David stopped breathing. 29. Their wedding day. "And the Powerball, 42. The world stopped. David looked at the ticket in his hands, then at the television, then back at the ticket. The numbers were all there, exactly as the announcer had announced. 12, 26, 8, 17, 29, Powerball 42. "Tonight's jackpot is $157 million, the announcer continued cheerfully. "If you have these numbers, you just became very, very rich." David dropped the ticket, which floated to the floor like a leaf. He looked at it as if it were a poisonous snake. $157 million. He had won the lottery. On the day his wife asked for a divorce, David stood up so quickly he got dizzy. He picked up the ticket from the floor and checked the numbers again and again, and once more. There was no mistake. He had won $157 million. He wanted to scream. He wanted to laugh. He wanted to cry. He wanted to run upstairs and wake Monica to tell her the incredible news. Then he remembered the divorce papers. Monica had asked for a divorce yesterday. She had made it very clear that there was no turning back, that she wanted to free herself from the life they had built together. And now, less than 24 hours later, he had just won enough money to solve all their problems, to pay all the debts, to buy a beautiful house, to send Jessica to any college she wanted, to fulfill all the dreams they had abandoned. But it was too late. David sat heavily on the sofa, the winning ticket trembling in his hands. What should he do? Run upstairs and tell Monica, beg her to reconsider the divorce, promise that now everything would be different. But would it be fair? Monica had made the decision to leave him when they had nothing, when times were tough, when he was just David Williams, factory worker with financial problems and dead dreams. Would it be right now to try to win her back because suddenly he was David Williams, multimillionaire? And if she stayed, how would he know if it was for love or for money? How would either of them know? David looked at the ticket, then at the stairs leading to the bedroom where Monica slept, probably dreaming of a better life away from him. $157 million, and he had never felt so poor in his entire life. David didn't sleep at all that night. He sat in the living room until dawn, the lottery ticket on the coffee table in front of him, as if it were a bomb that could explode at any moment. At 6 in the morning, he heard Monica moving upstairs, getting ready for another double shift at the hospital. She came down at 6:30, already dressed in her light blue nurse uniform, hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. "Good morning," she said coldly, without looking directly at him. "Good morning," David replied, quickly covering the ticket with a magazine. Monica grabbed a cup of coffee and a banana. "I thought about what we talked about yesterday," she said, still not looking at him. "I'm going to stay at my sister's house for a few days, to give you space to process everything." David felt his heart tighten. "Monica." "No, David. It'll be better this way, for both of us." She grabbed her purse and headed for the door, stopping only to turn around one last time. "The papers are still on the kitchen table when you're ready to sign." And she was gone. David was left alone in the apartment, the weight of the secret crushing his shoulders. $157 million. And his wife was moving to her sister's house because she thought he was a failure. Jessica came down an hour later, finding David still sitting in the living room. "Dad, why didn't you go to work?" David looked at his daughter, her bright eyes, her young face still marked by the innocence of someone who believes that adult problems always have solutions. "I'm feeling a bit sick today, Princess. I'll call in sick." Jessica sat on the arm of the sofa. "It has to do with you and Mom, doesn't it?" David sighed. There was no point in lying. Jessica was too smart. "Your mother asked for a divorce, Jess." Jessica was silent for a long moment. "Because of money? Because of many things. But yes, mainly because of money." "That's so unfair," Jessica said, tears beginning to form in her eyes. "You guys love each other. Everyone can see that. Why does money have to ruin everything?" David pulled his daughter into a hug. "Sometimes life is complicated, Princess. Sometimes love isn't enough." Jessica pulled away and looked directly into his eyes. "Love is always enough, Dad. Always. People forget that." After Jessica left for school, David was alone with the ticket and his thoughts. He needed to tell someone. He needed advice. He needed help understanding what to do. He picked up the phone and called his best friend, Mike Rodriguez, who had worked with him at the factory for 12 years. "Mike, it's me, David. Can you come to my house? I need to talk to you about something." "Sure, man. Is everything okay? You seemed strange yesterday at work. Just come, okay? It's important." Mike arrived 20 minutes later, finding David pacing back and forth in the living room like a caged animal. "Man, you're a mess. What happened?" David stopped pacing and looked at his friend. Mike Rodriguez, 42 years old, married to Carmen for 18 years, father of 3 children. A solid, reliable man who always gave sensible advice. Monica asked for a divorce. "Ah, damn, man. I'm sorry. When?" "Thursday night." Mike nodded understandingly. "And you called in sick to process all this, I understand." "It's not just that, Mike." David picked up the ticket from the coffee table. "Look at this." Mike took the ticket and examined it casually. "A lottery ticket. So what?" "Check the numbers, Mike. Check the numbers against last night's drawing." Mike frowned and picked up his phone to check the numbers online. David saw the exact moment realization hit Mike. His eyes widened, his mouth opened, and he almost dropped the phone. "David, these numbers." "I know. You won." "I know. $157 million. "I know." Mike slumped onto the sofa, looking from the ticket to David and back to the ticket. "Man, you're a millionaire. You're rich. Really rich." "I know. So why do you look like someone died?" David sat in the chair across from his friend. "Because Monica doesn't know." "What? How doesn't she know?" "Man, go upstairs and tell her now." "She's not here, Mike. She moved to her sister's house." "Then call her, text her, go there." David shook his head. "It's not that simple." "Of course it's simple. David, your wife left you because you guys are broke. Now you have enough money to solve all your problems. How is that not simple?" David got up and started pacing again. "Because she left me, Mike, when I was poor, when I was just a factory worker who could barely pay the bills. She looked at me and decided I wasn't worth it. Man, you're being unfair. She didn't leave you because you're poor. She left you because you were both drowning. It's the same thing." "No, it's not." Mike stood up and grabbed David by the shoulders. "David, listen to what I'm saying. Monica loves you, always has. But she was tired, man. Tired of fighting, tired of worrying, tired of seeing you destroy yourself because of money." David pulled away from his friend. "And now that I have money, suddenly everything will be okay? How will I know if she's coming back for me or for the money? Because you've known Monica for 25 years, idiot. You know what kind of person she is." David stopped pacing and looked at Mike. "You know what's the worst part, Mike? It's that part of me. Part of me wants her to come back, even knowing she only wanted me when I had nothing to offer." "David, you're thinking about this all wrong." "Am I? Then explain the right way to think about it." Mike sighed and sat down again. "Okay, let's think about this logically. You've been married for 24 years, right?" "Right. And legally, what's yours is hers too, right?" David stopped. He hadn't thought of that. Technically, Monica had a right to half of everything, including any lottery ticket bought during the marriage. "Man," Mike continued, "technically speaking, Monica won the lottery as much as you did. That ticket was bought with the couple's money during the marriage. She has legal right to half that money. But she doesn't know that." "Exactly. And that's where it gets interesting." Mike leaned forward. "You can choose to tell her and share the money as a couple, or you can keep it secret, let the divorce proceed, and then claim the prize as a single man." David felt a chill in his stomach. The idea of keeping all the money for himself had crossed his mind, but hearing Mike say it out loud made it sound so petty. "I'm not that kind of person, Mike. I know you're not. That's why you're so lost." Mike stood up. "Man, you have a decision to make, and whatever decision you make will define what kind of man you are." After Mike left, David was alone again with the ticket and his turbulent thoughts. He could tell Monica. He could beg her to come back. He could promise that now everything would be different, and she would probably come back. Who wouldn't come back for $157 million? But then he would always wonder if she came back for love or for money. Or he could let things take their course, let the divorce happen, let Monica leave thinking he was just David Williams, the failed factory worker, and then, when everything was finalized, claim the prize. But then he would have to live knowing he let the woman he loved leave when he had the power to save them. David looked at the ticket, then at the wedding photo on the shelf. Him and Monica, young and smiling, full of hope and dreams. 24 years later, those dreams had turned into nightmares, and now he had the power to turn them back into dreams. The question was, should he use that power? And if he did, who would he really be doing it for? For Monica or for himself? David spent the entire weekend in agony. Saturday and Sunday dragged like an eternity, every minute filled with doubts and questions that had no easy answers. Jessica spent most of the time at friends' houses, avoiding the palpable tension that hung over the apartment. When she was home, she barely spoke to her father, as if she blamed both him and Monica for what was happening to the family. Monica didn't call, didn't text. Her silence was deafening. Monday morning, David went to work because he couldn't stand being alone with his thoughts anymore. At the factory, he tried to concentrate on work, but his hands shook so much he almost hurt himself on the machine. "David, are you okay?" asked the supervisor, Tom Harley. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine, Tom. Just some problems at home." "Want to talk about it?" David almost laughed. How could he explain to Tom that he had won the lottery, but didn't know if he should tell his wife who asked for a divorce? "It's nothing I can't handle, Tom, but thanks." During lunch, David sat alone in the factory cafeteria, absent-mindedly stirring the food he had brought from home. Around him, colleagues talked about the usual problems. Bills to pay, children to raise, postponed dreams. Problems he no longer had, except he did, because money didn't solve all problems. Sometimes it created new and more complicated ones. "David?" He looked up and saw Carmen Rodriguez, Mike's wife, standing next to the table. Carmen worked in the factory's administrative office. "Hi, Carmen. Mike told me about you and Monica. I'm sorry." David nodded. "Thank you." Carmen sat across from him. "Can I tell you something? Woman to man?" "Sure. Monica loves you, David. Always has. I've seen you together for years, and the way she looks at you, that doesn't change overnight." "Then why is she doing this?" Carmen sighed. "Because she's scared, David. Scared that you'll never get out of the financial hole. Scared that Jessica will grow up thinking that struggle is the only thing that exists in marriage. Scared that you'll lose each other completely if you continue on this path. And do you think she's right? I think she's desperate. And desperate people sometimes make decisions they wouldn't make if they had hope." David looked at Carmen. "And if, hypothetically speaking, what if suddenly hope appeared? Do you think it would be fair to use that hope to try to change her decision?" Carmen frowned. "What kind of hope?" "I don't know. Let's say an unexpected inheritance, or a big promotion, or, I don't know, winning the lottery." Carmen laughed. "Winning the lottery? David, you watch too many Hallmark movies." David forced a smile. "It's just a hypothesis." "Okay, hypothetically speaking," Carmen leaned forward, "if suddenly you had enough money to solve all the problems, I think Monica would be relieved, but she would also be confused." "Confused how?" "Because she spent so much time convincing herself that the marriage was over, that it would be hard to accept that there was a solution, and she would feel guilty for giving up just before things got better." David nodded thoughtfully. "And do you think she would come back?" "I think she would want to come back, but maybe she'd be afraid that you were just postponing the inevitable, that if the money ran out again, you'd be back to the same place." Carmen put her hand on David's arm. "David, can I give you some unsolicited advice?" "Sure. If there's any possibility, however small, of you solving the financial problems, tell Monica. Don't let her make a permanent decision based on a temporary situation." David felt the weight of the ticket in his shirt pocket. A temporary situation. If Monica knew, what if she only came back for the money? Then you'd find out who Monica really is. And David? Carmen stood up. "If after 24 years you still don't know who Monica really is, maybe the problem isn't the money." That night, David came home determined to tell Monica everything. He called her, but it went to voicemail. He sent a message asking her to come home to talk. She responded 2 hours later. "David, I know it's difficult, but we need to keep our distance now. When you sign the papers, we can talk about the practical details." David looked at the message, then at the lottery ticket on the coffee table. $157 million, and his wife didn't even want to talk to him. Jessica came home at 10 at night, returning from work at McDonald's. She looked exhausted. "How was work, princess?" "Tiring, but at least it pays." She threw herself on the sofa next to her father. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Do you still love Mom?" The question was like a punch to the stomach. "Of course I love her, Jess. Very much. And does she still love you?" "I think so. At least, she used to love me." Jessica was silent for a moment. "You know what I don't understand about adults?" "What?" "You complicate everything. If you love each other, why don't you stay together and figure out a way to solve the problems?" David laughed sadly. "It's not that simple, princess." "Why not? If you work together, support each other, stop fighting and start cooperating, why can't you solve anything?" David looked at his daughter, 16 years old, but sometimes as wise as someone of 60. What if suddenly a solution appeared for all our financial problems? Do you think Mom would come back? Jessica looked at him curiously. What kind of solution? David hesitated. Should he tell Jessica? She was a minor, but she was smart and deserved to know that the family's life was about to change dramatically. "Jessica, I need to tell you something, but you have to promise to keep it secret until I decide what to do." "Dad, you're scaring me." David picked up the ticket from the coffee table. "Remember how I always buy lottery tickets on Fridays?" "Yes, Mom always complains that it's a waste of money." "Well, last Friday it wasn't a waste. He showed the ticket to Jessica and explained about the drawing. He saw her eyes widen, her mouth open, the slow realization setting in. "Dad, are you saying that I won the lottery, Jess? $157 million. Jessica was silent for a long moment, processing the information. Then she exploded. "Dad, you won the lottery and didn't tell Mom? Are you crazy?" "Jess, lower your voice. The neighbors will hear." "I don't care if the neighbors hear. Dad, you have to tell Mom right now." "It's not that simple." Jessica got up from the sofa, pacing back and forth exactly as David had done for the past few days. "How is it not simple? Dad, Mom left you because you guys are broke. Now you have enough money to buy a small country. Of course she'll come back. What if she only comes back for the money?" Jessica stopped pacing and stared at her father. "Dad, you know Mom. She worked double shifts at the hospital for years to help support this family. She sold all the jewelry she inherited from Grandma to pay your medical bills when you got hurt at work. She never buys anything for herself, always puts the family first." David nodded. All of this was true. "Mom isn't a gold digger, Dad. She's practical, and she was tired of seeing our family fall apart because of money. But how will I know if she comes back for me or for the money?" Jessica sat back down next to her father and took his hands. "Dad, can I ask you a question? If you were Mom and you had spent years watching the man you love destroy himself because of financial problems, and you had tried everything to keep the family together, but nothing worked, wouldn't you consider divorce too?" David thought about it. Monica had worked double shifts, had sold personal things, had cut all unnecessary expenses, had tried everything to keep the family afloat. "Maybe," he admitted. "And if after making that difficult decision, you discovered there was a solution to all the problems, wouldn't you be happy? Wouldn't you want to try again?" David nodded slowly. "Dad, Mom didn't leave you because she doesn't love you. She left you because she loves you too much to watch you both destroy yourselves. If you tell her about the lottery, she'll come back because she'll have hope again. Not hope in the money, but hope in your future together." David looked at his daughter with admiration. When had she become so mature? "What do you think I should do?" "I think you should call Mom right now and ask her to come home. And when she gets here, you should tell her everything. About the lottery, about how you felt when she asked for a divorce, about how you want to fix things." David picked up the phone but hesitated. "What if it goes wrong? Dad, you're already getting divorced. How can it go more wrong than that?" David called Monica 3 times before she answered. "David, I said we need space. Monica, please, I need to talk to you. It's about our future." "Our future?" "David, we don't have a future anymore." "Yes, we do. Please come home. Just for an hour. Then, if you still want to proceed with the divorce, I'll sign the papers." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "1 hour, David, and then you sign the papers." "Okay, 1 hour." Monica arrived 40 minutes later. She was wearing jeans and a simple blouse, her hair loose on her shoulders. To David, she was as beautiful as always. "Hi," she said coldly, standing at the living room door. "Hi, thank you for coming. Is Jessica here?" "She's in her room, doing homework." Monica nodded and sat on the edge of the sofa, as if she were ready to run away at any moment. "What did you want to talk about?" David took a deep breath. It was now or never. "Monica, before you make a final decision about the divorce, I need to tell you something." "David, I don't want to hear promises about how you're going to change or how things are going to get better. We've heard those promises before. It's not a promise. It's a fact." David picked up the lottery ticket from the coffee table and placed it in front of Monica. "Friday night, I won the lottery." Monica looked at the ticket, then at David, then back at the ticket. "David, this isn't funny." "I'm not joking, Monica. Check the numbers. I won $157 million. Monica picked up the ticket with trembling hands and used her phone to check the drawing numbers. David saw the exact moment reality hit her. Her eyes widened, her breathing stopped, and she dropped the ticket as if it burned. You won the lottery." "I did. $157 million. $157 million. Monica was silent for a long moment, processing the information. Then she stood up abruptly. When were you going to tell me? The question caught David by surprise. I'm telling you now. You won on Friday, David. Today is Monday. You went 3 days without telling me. I was trying to decide if I should tell you. Decide if you should tell me, Monica yelled. David, we're married. That ticket was bought with our money during our marriage. I have legal right to that prize as much as you do. David stood up too. I know that, Monica. Of course you have rights. Then why did you hesitate to tell me? David took a deep breath. It was time for the truth. Because you left me when I had nothing, Monica. You looked at our life and decided it wasn't worth fighting for. So how can I know if you want to come back for me or for the money? Monica stared at him as if he had slapped her in the face. How can you say that? Because it's true. On Thursday, you said our marriage was over. On Friday, I won the lottery. That's quite a coincidence, don't you think? David, do you think I'm that shallow? Do you think 24 years of marriage means so little to me that I would change my mind because of money? I don't know, Monica. I don't know anything about you anymore. Monica began pacing back and forth, tears streaming down her face. You know why I asked for a divorce, David? It wasn't because you're poor. It was because I was watching the man I love destroy himself because of money. You stopped smiling, stopped dreaming, stopped believing in anything good. She turned to him. And you know what's worse? You were taking me with you. I was becoming bitter, resentful, constantly worried. Our daughter was growing up thinking that marriage is just about struggle and disappointment. But now we can fix all of this. How? Monica yelled. How is money going to fix the fact that you don't trust me? How is it going to fix the fact that when things got tough, we both gave up on each other? David was silent. David, if you had told me about the lottery on Friday, I would have been happy. It would have been the miracle we were waiting for, but you didn't tell me. You spent 3 days deciding if I deserved to know. Monica, and now, even knowing about the money, I can't help but wonder, what kind of marriage would we have if you always suspect my motives? If every time I do something good, you wonder if it's for the money? Monica grabbed her purse and headed for the door. Where are you going? Back to my sister's house, I need to think. Monica, wait. Let's talk about this. She stopped at the door and turned around. David, you won the lottery. Congratulations. But money doesn't buy trust. And without trust, we have nothing. And she left, leaving David alone with his $157 million and the devastating realization that he had lost the only thing that really mattered. David stood looking at the closed door for several minutes after Monica left. The lottery ticket was on the floor where she had dropped it, but now it looked less like a winning ticket and more like an accusation. Jessica came running down the stairs. Obviously, she had heard the argument. Dad, what happened? Why did Mom leave yelling? David slumped onto the sofa, his head in his hands. I messed up everything, Jess. How? I told her about the lottery, but she got angry because I took 3 days to tell her. And did you explain why? I explained that I was afraid she would only come back for the money. Jessica groaned. Oh, Dad, you really said that? It was the truth, Jess. No, Dad, it was your fear. There's a difference. David looked at his daughter. What are you talking about? Dad, Mom got angry not because you took time to tell her. She got angry because you don't trust her. After 24 years of marriage, you still think she's capable of using you for money. David hadn't thought of it that way. And you know what's worse? Jessica continued. Now she's wondering if you ever really knew her, if after all these years, you still don't know what kind of person she is. David felt a weight in his chest. Jessica was right. Monica had reason to be angry. He had questioned her character based on fear, not reality. What do I do now, Jess? You go after Mom and apologize, not for your concerns, but for not trusting her. And then you both sit down and talk about how to build a marriage based on trust, not money. That night, David couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about all the times over the years that Monica had proven her loyalty, her love, her character. How could he have doubted her now? The next morning he called in sick to work again. Then he drove to Sarah's house, Monica's sister, across town. Sarah opened the door with a cold expression. David, Sarah, I need to talk to Monica. She doesn't want to talk to you. Please, Sarah, 5 minutes. You hurt my sister, David. After everything she did for you, you questioned her character. David lowered his head. I know, and I came to apologize. Sarah studied him for a moment, then sighed. Wait here. She came back a few minutes later. Monica said you have 5 minutes. No more. Monica appeared at the door, her eyes red from crying. David's heart broke seeing her like that. Monica, I'm sorry. For what? For not trusting you, for questioning your motives, for forgetting who you really are. Monica crossed her arms. Continue. You spent years supporting me, working double shifts to support us, sacrificing your own needs for the family, selling your personal things to pay my medical bills. And when you finally reached your limit, when you couldn't take it anymore, I questioned your motives instead of understanding your pain. Tears began to form in Monica's eyes. Monica, you know me better than anyone in this world, and I thought I knew you too. But when fear took over, I forgot who you are. I forgot that you're the most honest, loyal, and loving woman I've ever known. David, I'm not asking you to come back because of the money. I'm asking you to forgive me for doubting you. And if there's any chance, however small, of rebuilding our marriage based on trust and true love, I want to try. Monica wiped tears from her eyes. David, it's not just about trust. We have real problems that need to be solved. I know, and I want to solve all of them. But together, Monica, the way it should have always been. Monica was silent for a long moment. David, if we're going to try again, it has to be different. It can't be you and me against the world. It has to be both of us, together, facing the world. That's what I want. And it can't be about the money. Money can solve our financial problems, but it can't solve our relationship problems. I understand, Monica sighed. David, I love you. I always have. But love isn't enough if we don't have mutual respect and trust. Then give me a chance to prove I've learned my lesson. Monica looked into his eyes for a long moment. Okay, one chance, but we're going to do this right. We're going to marriage counseling. We're going to learn to communicate better, and we're going to use this money responsibly, not as a crutch to avoid solving our real problems. David felt a wave of relief and gratitude. Anything you want, Monica. Anything. 3 weeks later, David and Monica were sitting in Dr. Patricia Reynolds' office, marriage counselor. The process of claiming the lottery prize had begun, but they decided that was secondary to the work of rebuilding their marriage. How do you feel about being here? Asked Dr. Reynolds. Nervous, Monica admitted, but hopeful. And you, David? Determined. I want to do things right this time. Dr. Reynolds nodded. Let's talk about what happened. Monica, how did you feel when David hesitated to tell you about the lottery prize? Betrayed. Not because of the money, but because of the lack of trust. After all these years, finding out he still questioned my motives, it was devastating. And David, can you explain why you hesitated? David took a deep breath. Fear that she would only come back for the money. But now I realize that fear said more about my own insecurities than about her character. That's an important insight. Monica, how do you feel hearing that? I understand his fear. But it hurts to know that after 24 years, he still doesn't know me completely. And how can you work to rebuild that trust? They spent the following weeks in regular sessions, learning to communicate better, to express fears and concerns without attacking each other, to work as a team instead of adversaries. Meanwhile, news of the lottery prize spread. Reporters showed up at their door. Distant friends and relatives started calling, asking for favors. David and Monica had to learn to navigate their new financial reality while protecting their privacy and relationships. The hardest part, Monica said during one session, isn't having the money. It's figuring out how it changes the way people see us. And how are you dealing with that? Setting boundaries, David replied. We decided not to tell many people exactly how much we won, and we're being very careful about how we spend. Actually, Monica added, we decided we won't change our lifestyle drastically. We'll pay off our debts, buy a better house, secure Jessica's education, and invest the rest. But we don't want money to define who we are. That shows a lot of wisdom, said Dr. Reynolds. "And how is Jessica handling all this?" David smiled. "Jessica gave us the best advice. She said money is like salt. A little enhances the food, but too much ruins everything." 6 months after the lottery drawing, David and Monica renewed their vows in a small, intimate ceremony with only close family and friends. Jessica was the maid of honor. "Do you regret anything?" Monica asked David on the night of the ceremony as they danced in their new living room. "Doubting you," David replied without hesitation. "Those 3 days were the worst of my life." "Why?" "Because I had everything I'd always dreamed of, but I couldn't enjoy it because I had lost the most important thing. You," Monica smiled. "And now I know it doesn't matter how much money we have. If we don't have each other, we have nothing. And if we lose everything again?" David stopped dancing and looked into her eyes. "Then we'll face it together, as a team, the way it should have always been." Jessica, who was watching from the stairs, smiled. Her parents had finally learned that the real treasure wasn't in the lottery ticket. It was in the trust, love, and commitment they had for each other. David Williams was in the garden of his new house, not a mansion, but a comfortable house in an upper-middle-class neighborhood, watering the tomatoes he and Monica had planted together in the spring. 5 years after winning the lottery, they learned that money really doesn't buy happiness. But it can buy security, opportunities, and peace of mind. Jessica was in college, studying psychology, inspired by the family therapy sessions they had done. She wanted to help other families communicate better. Monica had gone back to school and become an obstetric nurse, fulfilling the dream she had abandoned years ago. David opened his own auto repair shop, but also created a professional training program for men and women going through financial difficulties. They still had problems from time to time. They still argued about money sometimes, but now they knew how to resolve conflicts without attacking each other. "David," Monica called from the kitchen door. "Dinner is ready." "Coming," he replied, but stopped for a moment to look at his life. A beautiful house, a strong marriage, a daughter who was growing up to be an incredible woman, meaningful work, financial security. But the most valuable thing of all was the trust he and Monica had rebuilt. Because in the end, David learned that no matter how much luck you have in life, if you can't trust the person you love, you have nothing. And if you can trust them completely, you already have everything. The winning lottery ticket was framed on the wall of their office, not as a symbol of wealth, but as a reminder of how close they came to losing everything because of fear and lack of trust. David went inside, where Monica was setting the table and smiling at him the way she always did, as if he were the most important person in the world. And he smiled back, knowing he was the luckiest man in the world, not because of the money, but because he had a second chance to do things right. And this time, he didn't waste it. Did you enjoy this exciting story? If it touched you as much as it did me, give it a like. Subscribe to the channel for more stories that will touch your heart. Ring the bell so you don't miss any. Tell me in the comments, do you believe love can overcome any obstacle? Have you ever had to rebuild trust in a relationship? I want to hear your stories. And don't forget to share this video with that special person who needs to believe in second chances. Until the next story, a heartfelt hug.